From Relay FM, this is Connected, episode number 58. Today's show is brought to you by Smile, Fracture, and Igloo. My name is Mike Hurley, and I am joined by Mr. Stephen Hackett. Hello, sir.
Hello, Mike. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm doing well.
And also by I'm sure, much relieved Mr. Federico Vittici.
Hello, fellow travelers.
How is your quality of life these days?
I would say it is acceptable. I'm recovering from the past 3 months of riding.
It's time to go to the beach house.
I don't know. See, my dad removed all the fancy comforts of the summer because we cannot go in the winter. You know, I would go there, but I would miss my chair. I would miss my TV. You know,
that doesn't
it's
sound
really
like a good scenario anymore.
No, it's not a good scenario. It's really a thing that we do from June to September. So now the time is over. See you next June. Beach house.
Look at that.
So he's turned the beach house basically into like a storage unit, is what you're saying?
Yes, that's what it does in the winter. It goes there and it removes all the greatest aspects of having the glamping beach house.
Yeah.
So
where do they go? Where do the things go?
Inside, like just inside. It's a mess. They just go inside. You cannot even enter the house because it's like full of chairs and stuff.
It's all piled up.
Yeah.
It's good. It's good to know.
We're going to start off this episode this week with something new. We are going to institute maybe the first ever follow-in.
Yeah.
Which is...
Can you explain what it is?
Yeah. So a couple of days ago, CGP Grey, host of Cortex on Relay FM, sent me an image with a highlight from your review in it. And he demanded, actually said demanded, I demand to know why Federico does this. And the
Is he
image,
curious? Does he want to steal my tricks?
I have
What
no
does he wanna
idea,
do?
but but as soon as he sent it, I felt exactly the same way. So he highlighted a sentence from your review where you're talking about, I assume, Notification Center and widgets and that kind of stuff. And you said, for example, I use the Do Button app every night before sleep to tell my girlfriend the exact time I went to bed with an email. That is what he wanted to know. And this is follow in because he is another host and would like this question to be asked on the show. So both me and Stephen have our own theories about what this is, and Stephen, I will allow you to go first, and Federico, you can provide us with the answer as to why you need to send an email every evening to your lovely Sylvia to tell her why you're going to bed.
Okay.
I would imagine that our theory might be similar in that it is well documented that Federico does not sleep enough, and he sleeps at awkward times to be living where he lives. And my thought is that this is a little accountability to prove that you are going to bed at a reasonable time. Maybe you guys have some time set upon that if you go past that, you get in trouble. I don't know. I feel like it's an accountability system of sorts.
No, close enough.
I was
Mike?
thinking it was either that or it's a way of tracking your health, which she does, and or so she knows that she shouldn't wake you up when she gets up. Right, because if she sees that you went to bed at 6 a.m. and she wakes up at 9, maybe not wake Federico.
Mike, you get closer to the problem.
Okay.
It's a combination of both, but you're missing one essential aspect. Is that my girlfriend is a normal person, and I'm lazy. So I don't want to be woken up by an alarm, either from my phone or from my watch. I like to be woken up by my girlfriend with a smile and a cup of espresso. That's how I like to be woken up. So what's the problem here? Because I go to bed, as Steven said, I go to bed at unusual times. My girlfriend does not. She usually goes to sleep at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. She doesn't go to bed at like 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. like I do because I'm working. She doesn't have to go to an office in the morning, but she still likes to wake up at around 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. So what I do is, for many years, she had to guess when I went to bed, and that was a problem because it meant that I could, be woken up with 4 to 5 hours of sleep, and I cannot function if I don't sleep at least 6 hours. 7 hours is is how I feel best during the day, but I need to sleep at least 6 hours. So for many years, we were searching for a system so I could tell her in an unobtrusive fashion when was the exact time that I was going to sleep, that I was going to bed. And the best way to do that, we found out, was to use the IFTTT app, because it sends a precise timestamp of when I'm going to bed. So every morning, she doesn't wake up to notifications, because she doesn't keep notifications for the email. She just opens the mail app. She sees the timestamp and she does the math. She lets me sleep 6 to 7 hours, and then she wakes me up at the best time for me with the kind of waking up scenario that I like, which is her waking me up with an espresso and breakfast. I love my girlfriend very much. I need to have.
I think we all do now.
She's amazing and she knows me very well. I try to various techniques. I try to be woken up by the iPhone's alarm. Doesn't work because it just makes me angry. I tried the various sleep trackers for iPhone. They do the kind of, I'll wake you up at the best time for you, but I really just want to be woken up by another person, and that person happens to be my girlfriend, who does know how to make me happy. So yeah, that's why I use this app. And even, I told you that I'm lazy. The best part is I just need to press a button in the widget to send an email. Mm-hmm. So before putting up my phone in the charger, which is the very last thing that I do before sleeping, I can just open Notification Center or the app. It doesn't matter. I tap, I send my, hey, I'm going to bed right now email, and I'm done. It's the only way that I don't forget. We get the timestamp of when I'm going to bed. She knows how much I need to sleep, and everybody's happy. I mean, I guess she's happy. She has to wake me up with this whole system every morning. I should probably ask her if she's happy. I guess she is, or maybe she's just learned how to accept it. I don't know, but either way, that's why CGP.
I really like the combination of technology and espresso delivery that you have created into this workflow.
Yeah, you're like Doc Brown. You know how he has whatever happens at the start of Back to the Future that makes his breakfast?
Yeah,
it's
it
like
pours
that.
Yeah. It's a Rube Goldberg machine involving a person and a button in an app.
I have to say, though, Federico, that I, whilst not having a system like you do, agree with many of the things that you do. So every morning before Adina leaves for work, she does wake me up. And then we just have a system where she'll wake me up and then say, do you need to sleep more? And then I will say yes, and then she will assist me in setting an alarm whilst I'm tired. Or I wake up. Like this morning, I woke up and we walked together to the shops where I bought some milk so I could drink some coffee in the morning. And so I am very much like you in that I don't like... alarms annoy me, and my quality of life has improved significantly in that I don't have to be woken up by alarms anymore, and I can be woken up by a human being. That is a big, big difference in my life. So yeah. I agree with you completely. But just that entire... I actually don't think I've ever loved you more than I love you right now. Because that was so much more than I expected it to be. So yeah. I would also like to thank Gray for providing this follow-in, which has created probably the best moment to ever occur on this show. So
I'm very peculiar with my morning routine and habits. And in fact... The few times that I forgot to put my phone in silent mode, let me tell you how much I hate getting phone calls in the morning. When I was having treatments a few years ago, my oncologist learned not to call me in the morning because I told her, please never call me in the morning because I'm sleeping. And if you wake me up, I have a very strange relationship with my oncologist. She's more of a friend, really. But she knew. And she told other doctors and the nurses in the department not to call me, not to call Federico in the morning because he won't pick up. If he does pick up, he's another person completely. So please don't call him in the morning. A few days ago, I got a telemarketing phone call in the morning. And I woke up because the ringtone wakes me up every time. and was a very nice lady, I'm sorry, from British Telecom. I don't know how they got my number, but they wanted to make me an offer. So she started talking real fast. And I was like, yes, what's up? And she said, we want to give you this offer. And I was half asleep, half awake. And I told her, is this an offer? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, thank you, but no. And I just hung up the phone. And I later realized that I was very rude to the lady. She was just doing her job. Mm-hmm. But really, I can be terrible if I don't sleep enough. And so I devised this entire system, and I try to always put everything to silent mode so I can wake up in a gentle mood, ready for the day ahead. And using the help of scripts and, recipes, whatever, this is a perfect combo of the human aspect, the teachy aspect of, automating this sort of process. So I'm happy. It works for me.
I think we can just end the show there.
Yes, thanks so much for listening.
Let
me take a break, and then we'll actually do some real follow-up. This week's episode is brought to you by Smile. We love Smile, and Smile love podcasts, and they know that everybody loves a deal. So Smile is offering 20% off new licenses of their amazing products for listeners of this show. All you need to do is go and buy from them direct before October 15th. You've heard us speak about all of their great products in the past, and if for any reason you've been holding off, now is the time to buy. And this isn't something that they do very often, so you should definitely be taking advantage of this opportunity. You can save yourself, for example, 20% on PDF Pen, the all-purpose Mac PDF editor. It lets you easily add signatures, text, or images to PDFs. You can make changes and correct typos, have your documents OCR scanned, export in Microsoft Word format, and so much more. Or what about 20% off PDF Pen Pro, which adds additional functionality on top, like to allow you to make interactive forms, build tables of contents, or convert web pages to PDFs. You could also save yourself 20% off Text Expander, the glorious app that lets you save time and lets you save from overworking your fingers or your keyboard. You can effortlessly expand custom keyboard shortcuts into frequently used text and pictures. This app, for me, I believe, is an essential tool for any Mac owner. Smile have been such a fantastic supporter of this show since the very beginning, and you can help support them and us by buying one of their amazing products today. All you need to do is go to smilesoftware.com/connected or use the coupon code CONNECTED at checkout. These discounts are only available directly from Smile, not from the Mac App Store, of course. Discounts do not apply to ebooks or upgrades, and don't forget this offer is only available until October 15th, 2015. Thank you so much to Smile for their continued support of this very show. Stephen, hit me with your follow-up.
I'll hit you with some follow-up, starting with the iPad Pro and the apps that could come about with this new hardware, with the Pencil and everything. This was a theme in our follow-up this week. Matt won the Who Gets Pasted into the Document Challenge. So Matt works in video post-production in Hollywood, and he says that people are always talking about how we'll be eventually editing on iPads, and he's tried iMovie, Adobe's got an app, Avid had one, and he says they're fine, but he thinks the interaction isn't the problem. He thinks the problem is storage. So I'm going to quote his email now because it's got some impressive numbers in it that I think are important to our conversation. Every professional video editor works with some kind of media storage. That could range from a portable LaCie external drive to an 8-bay Thunderbolt RAID, all the way up to a 48-terabyte fiber channel system supporting like 6 editing machines at once. That's the system he uses. So big data, fast I/O is really important in this. And I've experienced this a little bit helping my brother with his documentaries, that if you're dealing with video, very quickly hard drive space and speed become an issue. Being able to get your files to your computer quickly and reliably and access to various other editors is a very complicated problem. And the Mac is well suited to solve this problem, right? It's got Ethernet, it's got Thunderbolt, it's got a Finder. And I don't think that... I think like this issue is one of those one of those things that divides iOS from OS 10, and I just don't see them really being willing to tackle this sort of problem. Like having hours of HD video on Dropbox is not a solution for real people.
Yeah, and especially, not just about hardware, although that's a very big problem. But even if you just look at software, you mentioned the Finder on OS X, and that's the biggest argument in favor of using a Mac when it comes to moving a bunch of heavy files around and organizing these files in projects. The file management in iOS, in spite of the improvements over the past 2 years with document providers and extensions, and the iCloud Drive app in iOS 9, is still miles and miles away from the experience that you get on a Mac. The iCloud Drive app, as I wrote in my iOS 9 review, is mostly an embarrassment because of how much it lacks compared to, not necessarily the Finder, because I wouldn't expect Apple to bring a full Finder to the iPad. But even when you compare that to the features for document management and sharing that you get in other apps from competitors on iOS, such as Dropbox or Microsoft, and even Google. So when it comes to working with files on external storage, I wonder if the iPad Pro with the Smart Connector could lead to a new generation of external storage units. The Smart Connector is used for keyboards right now, but I wonder if it could be used in some way, maybe with a cable, I don't know, to transfer data and power to an external drive. But when it comes to software, Apple really needs to ship a better app to manage files and a better system across every app installed on iOS. Because right now it's fine if you want to move a bunch of PDFs or a bunch of Word documents around, but really I wouldn't advise you to keep several gigabytes worth of movie files on your iPad, because the experience is just not gonna be the same kind of experience that you demand and you expect from a Mac. So we need a lot of improvements in every aspect, I think.
On an infinite timescale, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's never going to happen, but I think there's significant work that would need to happen for it to be possible. But I thought it was good feedback and something that we didn't really touch on directly, so I think it's good. I've also got some feedback about the A9X, which is the processor at the heart of the iPad Pro. It seems to be that getting closer and closer to where the MacBook is as far as performance. Apple is talking about desktop class CPUs, console class GPUs, and so Romain wrote in thinking that, hey, is it time that that the A9X or some child or grandchild of it move into the Mac. And it was interesting, Apple compared the A9X and the iPad Pro to the shipping PCs, saying that the iPad Pro is faster than whatever it was, 90% of portable PCs shipped. Clearly Apple's talking about it sort of while not talking about it, but I really think that the time is coming where Apple could build an ARM chip fast enough for a low-end Mac. They're not going to be able to build an ARM chip right now that can replace a MacBook Pro or a Mac Pro, but the MacBook with its little Intel Core M, not a very fast machine, and surely an ARM system would be well equipped for a machine like that. But I think the problems that we talked about whenever it was a year ago when this came up, I think those problems are still there, where things like virtualization and Boot Camp would suffer. I don't see Apple wanting to split their Mac line by processor type long term. So when they went from PowerPC to Intel, which you guys were children, you don't remember it, it happened in about 8 months. It was very quickly done. It was not a strategy to say we're going to have PowerPC Macs, we're going to have Intel Macs. They got through that as quickly as they could. And they can't do that with ARM right now. And so I really don't think they're going to start doing this, if they ever do it, until they've got the runway saying, hey, we know that we could build a 27-inch Retina iMac with ARM chips within a year. And until that day comes, I just don't see this being possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What do you guys think?
The assumption is if they're gonna do an ARM CPU for a Mac, they're still gonna use OS X. They're not gonna put iOS on the Mac just
Correct.
because they're using the ARM CPU. I guess in theory, it makes sense, right? Because they want to move the CPU production to the same line that they use for iOS devices, which are super successful. And assuming that OS X is gonna stay on those possible machines, I still wonder if they're gonna do it, if they're gonna use some kind of a inspiration, let's just say, from iOS and bringing it over to OS X. And I wonder what's the reason to do that? Because innovation moves faster in the ARM CPU line. I feel like I'm not best equipped to talk about this particular aspect.
I would have thought it's because Apple have more control over it, right? That's the reason that if they were ever going to do it, that's why they would do it. And the reason that they're able to make such great products with the iOS devices is that they control the whole thing and they can build the hardware and software together in harmony, where with the laptops, they're waiting on Intel. On the desktop machines. They're waiting on Intel right now. Intel were late with their chip design, so that's basically holding up any new revisions that Apple have for their products. So I assume that would be the reason they would do it, because then they have control of the whole stack. Stephen, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. I mean, like you said, there's a lot of like MacBook Pros and iMac updates and everything that have been rumored, but Intel is slipping on the ship dates for those chips. I do think control is one of the big factors, but I think too, if this comes with a big trade-off in power consumption, then they can either make their machines last longer, or what they will probably do is make everything thinner and lighter. And I think there's a lot of things about the MacBook that Apple likes, that it is fanless, that it is silent to operate. It is basically an iPad, with running OS X, except for the Intel chip, and that system wasn't even possible until the Core M was in such a shape that Apple could use it. I think controls a lot of it, and I think too, Apple does care about the experience of things like the temperature that the machines run at, the battery. I'm sure they want to get fans out of everything. But it does come with a cost, and losing virtualization would be a big deal. Right now you can run Windows on a Mac natively. That's a really big deal for a lot of users, and I'm not saying that would stop Apple, but I think that is a strong consideration, or strong thing to consider if you're Apple looking at that. And so I just don't know. I mean, I could see them doing it, but they would have to convince me that it was the right choice for a bunch of other reasons. Because I would be upset about virtualization. I think a lot of people would be.
Yep.
And I'd be upset if I couldn't buy as powerful a machine as I can buy now. And splitting the product line long term, like I said, doesn't make sense. I think that's confusing to customers. I mean, I was I was a Mac user during that transition, and even though I knew what I was doing, and on top of it, it's like, well, is this app universal? Will it run on both? Is this PowerPC only? Well, it's okay. I can use it in Rosetta until they take that away. And there was all of this like little details you had to worry about, really for years after that, really until Snow Leopard, the sort of stuff all went away. And it came with a cost. Leopard. So Tiger had a PowerPC and an Intel version, so you had to know which one to buy when you went in the store, which was crazy. And then Leopard was universal, and Leopard was huge. I mean, one reason Snow Leopard was so much smaller, and they touted that with Snow Leopard, hey, the install is so much smaller. It's the OS has lost gigabytes. Yeah, because they stripped all the PowerPC stuff out. Leopard was universal, and Leopard was really complicated as an OS because of it. And I think all that trade-off stuff, like they just did it a decade ago, I'm not sure they want to do it again unless there's a really compelling reason. And I'm not sure that control is enough of a reason quite yet.
Yeah, and especially a messy transition from Intel to ARM for new Macs would be more of a problem for today's Apple than 10 years ago. Because they're a bigger company, the spotlight is always on Apple, they have more users. And 10 years ago, they could do that kind of, I wouldn't say rough transition, but still, for users like you, it still required a lot of knowledge, I would say. Today, it would need to be much more smoother and, easy for all types of users if they don't want to compromise the basic idea that millions of people have that Macs work and that PCs have problems. They don't want to create the assumption that Macs are problematic because they spent the past 10 years positioning the Mac as the fastest, easiest platform. Yeah. And do they want to change that? I don't know.
Yeah, it's a lot to think about, and I think it's a topic that is just going to continue. I mean, with the iPhone 6s, it's benchmarking higher than ever. It's the iPad Pro, obviously, when it comes out, is going to benchmark as the highest, fastest iOS device, and so I think this will continue to be a topic until they do something, or until they say something definitive. Either way, do we want to close out the Apple Pay corner for me?
Yeah, we're going to put it to bed for you forever.
Yes. So in the last couple of weeks, I think we talked about it last week. I don't know. So my local bank supports Apple Pay now.
Hooray.
And with iOS 9, my credit card company also supports Apple Pay.
Oh,
so
wow.
all of my cards in the last 2 weeks have just gone from no Apple Pay to Apple Pay. But then my debit card number was stolen someplace that didn't take Apple Pay, so I'm dealing with that. Which really has been an interesting experience. And we've had it happen a couple of times over the years, but I'm always struck by just how ridiculous the system is, that it's the same set of numbers, and if that set of numbers gets taken, like I have physical possession of my card, but the number was stolen and used, and they racked up basically took a bunch of money out of my checking account before it got stopped. That's how old school and ridiculous that is, and how if Apple Pay was accepted everywhere, it wouldn't be a problem because the one-time use number and everything that we talked about in detail earlier. So I'm definitely going to be of the mind of any place that uses Apple Pay, I definitely will be using it. Having gone through all of this in just the last couple of days, really reiterated to me that it's the current system we have in the States is so bad, and I'm looking forward to it being better.
Yeah, it's weird. I always find it so weird using my credit card and debit card in America. It's just it's like going back in time. So strange.
Yeah.
Also, weirdly, I couldn't get Apple Pay to work when I was in Portland. Which it doesn't make sense to me why that would be the case.
Yeah, I wonder if there's some sort of region checking or something. I mean, who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
So, what else is on the docket for today?
Well, iPhone pre-order news and reviews have come out before we recorded today.
Mm-hmm.
So Apple had a press release where they announced a couple of interesting things. Fastest iOS adoption ever, with more than 50% of devices already using iOS 9 as of Monday, September 20th. I think that's interesting because my feeling from just talking to people is that there is a general fear of upgrading to iOS now because you don't know what you're going to get. Is it going to be a new UI again? Is it going to break? So I think that that's very interesting that it's been such a high adoption rate. So I guess bravo Apple with what they've been doing there to convince people that it's worth doing. And also another stuff about the iPhone 6s and 6s Plus pre-orders. So this is a quote from the press release. Customer response to the iPhone 6s and iPhone 6s Plus has been incredibly positive. We can't wait to get our most advanced iPhones ever into customers' hands starting this Friday, says Philip Schiller, Apple's Senior Vice President of Worldwide Marketing. iOS 9 is also off to an amazing start, on pace to be downloaded by more users than any other software release in Apple's history. So all around good news for iOS 9 and the iPhones. I'm looking forward to picking mine up on Friday.
I'm jealous.
Yeah, mine's on a truck. I did the trick where you search your phone number, and so mine was in China when I looked it up yesterday.
Did you guys see that woman that she got her phone already and was just like running Geekbench on it and stuff? It was awesome. Yeah. She's just like, she was just giving all of this information away. It was absolutely fantastic. She's at Moonshine Design on Twitter. I'll find a link. I think Mac Rumors wrote up a little bit about her. But she was doing stuff like she confirmed the RAM. She was running Geekbench scores. It's hilarious. It was just she was just like completely just giving everything away. And
she tweeted pictures. She had benchmarks. She provided the full resolution videos and photos to Mac Rumors. She knew what she was doing.
Oh, yeah,
that's awesome. And I wonder if the embargo for the reviews was modified in any way to account for all these unexpected details.
Maybe. I mean, it feels like not everybody was ready, because a bunch of reviews that I expect to be out aren't yet. Or like they were staggering through today, but I don't know if that's just people's the way that they do these types of things. But it does seem a little bit rushed. It doesn't feel, in my mind, like it's the Tuesday. It usually feels a little bit later in the week that they do the embargo.
On Wednesday, I think, usually.
Yeah. Well, look at that.
It's a day early. I saw someone on Twitter saying that maybe Ben Thompson on Twitter said that it was a day early than usual, because it comes out on Friday and on Wednesday you get the reviews. That's what they usually do. So it's interesting. Maybe it's just a conspiracy theory,
Talking about reviews, the only one that I've really taken a look at yet is The Verge's, just because they make a great video. So for me, that's just the way I consume these things, because, I just don't want to read it, because that's just how I am. And Nilai's review, his video review was great. He spoke very highly about it, and I thought I'd just give a quick overview for anybody that hasn't read it or doesn't want to. Nilai says to go plus, so it's a good news for all of us. Bigger screen, bigger battery, better camera. And when you think of it that way, like, that just makes sense to me. And his idea was just like, why wouldn't you get the better one on specs? But I guess it depends on what you can put in your own hands. He thinks 3D touch will actually be really useful. It feels quite natural, better than Force Touch. It is a big step and could potentially be a big step for interaction on iOS devices, but believes, and it makes sense, that it won't make true sense until third-party developers create their own design language and interaction methods that they use and the way that their apps communicate with it. The better selfie camera is awesome and much improved, and the back camera is great, but feels that, and from the photos that I've seen anyway, that the improvement isn't dramatic, but it is better, right? So if you like zoom in on the pictures, they look better, right? And they look better, but it's not like a huge jump in the photos. And live photos are interesting, it seems. It feels like that you kind of have to think differently about the way that you take pictures, right? Because he's saying a bunch of his live photos ended in him putting his phone away, because the video keeps going, right, or whatever it's doing. So usually you like take the picture and put the phone down, which maybe isn't the way you'd want to do it. They do take double the space of a regular photo. So,
good.
Yep, as Nilai suggested, which is probably what I'll do, which is exactly how I treat HDR as well, is to use it for the photos I want to be live photos.
Yep. Yeah, I'm definitely that way with HDR.
Yeah, taking a specific picture and being like, this is going to be something I think I would want as a live photo. That's probably how I'll do it. I don't know if you need
How do you decide?
Picture.
It sort of defeats the purpose of capturing a moment.
Well, I mean, it depends, right?
It puts a cognitive load on you to assess every time whether you want to capture a moment or not.
I can deal with that cognitive load, but it's the idea of being like, yeah, I might end up missing some great ones, but like if I'm taking a picture of... So like, for example, if I'm taking a picture... Me currently, if I take a picture of a person, it tends to be a scenario that I would maybe want a live photo, because I don't take pictures of people a lot, right? It's just because I don't have kids. I think it's when you have kids is when you start taking pictures of people all the time. And or if I'm somewhere where I'm taking pictures of something that's moving, then I might want to do one. Or otherwise I might miss out on it, but I'm not sure if I want to double the size of my photo library going forward.
Yeah, I worry too about the support of live photos. So it'll be iOS 9 and El Capitan when it comes out in about a week and a half. But they haven't said, like, and I haven't read, so maybe someone has said now, Like, do these things just work in Finder? Because I'm still using Dropbox and folders. I'm not using the Photos app.
Yeah, what happens to my backup? I just end up with GIFs. That's all I have now.
So am I stuck in Photos if I want to use these things? 'Cause I do have kids, and I do want to use this with them. I mean, that the little example of like the little girl they used in the keynote who's like smiling, thinks there's a flower or something. Like that was like aimed straight at the dad in me, and I want to play with that, but I really don't want to use Photos, and so. Is it going to be a thing where like all my live photos are just sort of like shuttled off in the side in Photos and everything else I keep in Dropbox, or is this going to make me blow everything up again? I want to see how good the support is in OS 10 because I do worry that it may be half baked.
You guys are still using Dropbox for Photos?
Yeah, I don't use the Photos app.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
I've been using Photo Library with iCloud since it launched, and it's been perfect for me. I
have all of my photos go in there, but I haven't put my entire library previously into it.
I guess it's really a decision of how safe you feel with a photo management services. We're not going down this rabbit hole again.
Well, I have a couple of things, right? So I have that, right? That thing, right? You know, the safety thing. But also, I have this incredible legacy account. I don't know if you heard this on Upgrade, Federico, but I was thinking to myself a couple of weeks ago that I don't recall paying for iCloud frequently, and I have this crazy legacy account from MobileMe or .Mac where I pay £7.99 a year for 25 gigabytes of storage space, and I quite like doing that because so if I put all of my photos in, I'm going to start having to pay more for iCloud, and I also pay for Dropbox. So I'm going to have to I'll be paying more to put my photos in different places. Like that's one of the things. And then it's like, well, everything goes into Google Photos, which is free, and Google Photos, I find for me, is easier to search for pictures because they have their magical stuff. I just don't need all of my photos in another place. So I have iCloud Photo Library on, but I haven't got my years and years of pictures in it.
So I understand.
It works for me.
Yeah, because you're using a Mac and the Google Photos uploader is always working.
Yep,
right?
Exactly. It sits in the menu bar and it just uploads, and then I can get my images everywhere. Even though it kind of does this weird thing on my iPhone where it tries to update and duplicate my photos, but it doesn't matter because I only use it for search anyway. So it doesn't matter if I have a million duplicates in there. It's not a problem for me. So there we go. So I don't have them all in there. So I agree with Stephen on the idea of what a live photo is going to actually look like as files.
Yeah. So underscore in the chat room is saying that they just show up as regular JPEGs, which is fine, but not as much fun. So I guess they won't be broken. I guess at best they just sort of degrade back to still images. But
in the Verge review, Nilay Patel says that Apple is going to offer an API for developers to properly display, I guess, live photos. So maybe apps like Google Photos and Dropbox will need to update to display live photos. Otherwise, they'll just fall back to JPEG. That's what I understand now. I
really think that this, if like Instagram does it, Facebook, Twitter, I think this could really take off. I mean, I could think this is one of those features that I think really could be a big deal. I think people are really going to enjoy it. It's going to be a little while, but I think we're going to see a lot of these. Sometimes Apple does something like, I feel this way about news, like they did it, but their heart's not in it. And I feel like Live Photos is not that. The fact that they made a big deal of it, it's built into the camera app, which everyone on the planet uses. I think it'll do pretty well. I mean, I see HDR, I see like regular like friends on Facebook post panoramic images they take with their iPhone. Like people use this stuff. So I'm looking forward to seeing it take off. I hope that it's adopted more widely than just iOS 9 and OS 10.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that the screenshots for my iOS 9 review were entirely managed with iCloud Photo Library. I would take a screenshot on my iPhone, combine them with the workflow, and then just wait for the iPad to, which is almost instant, basically, to pull down photos from the cloud and upload them from my iPad. it worked really, really well for work purposes.
I did have a weird thing the other day. I opened an image that I wanted to edit for a presentation that I'm working on, and I edited the image in Visco on my iPhone, and I put it back into iCloud Photo Library, and then for some reason, iCloud Photo Library on my Mac, not on my iPhone. On my iPhone, it just showed up most recent, but on my Mac, it observed the original posting, the original picture date. It was very strange. So I had to trawl through my library to find it. But there you go. It's just a weird thing that I found. The iPhone and the iPad recognized that it had just been created in an app, but the Mac thought that it was taken sometime in July.
I know that Photos is getting an update in El Capitan. I wonder if there's weirdness around that.
Yeah, could be. Let's take another break.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
This week's episode of Connected is also brought to you by Fracture. Fracture is the company that will take your favorite images and print them directly onto glass for you to proudly display or give as gifts. The team over at Fracture really wanted us to say a huge thank you to all of you who have been giving Fractures as gifts and giving them as a chance to print your own photos to display on your own walls as well. As we said before, we love Fracture and we love the prints that they create. It's been great working with them, and I personally love seeing the photos of the awesome prints that you've all made. People send pictures to us on Twitter of their Fracture prints, and I love seeing it, and so does Fracture as well, because the team at Fracture is super passionate about helping people display and celebrate their memories and accomplishments with the beautiful glass prints that they produce, and we love that you're helping support them and us by doing it. But there's something I need to tell you. You need to listen up. We've mentioned this before. Every Fracture is hand assembled and printed in their production place in Gainesville, Florida, that they call the Fractory, which, as a pun master, I love so much. But with the holidays coming up, because they make them by hand, they've specifically requested that we mention that if you are considering, or you have the idea or the notion that you would like to give a Fracture or two as a gift this December, you should really actually start thinking about making that order very soon. Because they print them by hand, their factory gets really ramped up at that time of year. And because Fractures really do make awesome gifts for family or friends. So, rescue those photos that are hidden away on your devices and pick a few to have on show. This is the way you should be doing it. Head on over to fractureme.com to learn more and get started. And if you use the code CONNECTED, you'll not only get yourself 15% of your first order, you'll also be helping support this show. Once again, big thanks to Fracture for supporting Relay FM. And don't forget to send us your pictures of your Fractures when you get them.
So we alluded to it earlier. Federico, your iOS 9 review has come out. It came out a week ago. How did it go? How are you feeling? Do you want to do it again?
It was exhausting in the end, but I'm very, very happy. Not just because of the performance of the review. Basically, in 2 days, we did what we usually do in a month on the site. So that was awesome. And I believe that pagination, of course, helped a lot when it comes to traffic to the website, because people, of course, are moving across multiple pages. But that's not the metric that I use to measure my happiness with the review. The best part was reading of all these people from around the world reading the review, discovering things, making annotations, and sharing pictures of them reading the review in unusual places. I got pictures from readers enjoying the review while eating pasta, others while drinking wine.
I love seeing those.
That makes me really happy. And just getting feedback from people on Twitter, it always warms my heart, and it makes those 3 months of hard work really worth the effort. And of course, seeing the actual consequence and effect on the site also helps. But really, the response from readers is what makes me really happy to have done this. So it's obvious for me to keep doing this for the next, I would say, few years. I wouldn't say several years, but I am gonna keep doing this, and I wanna make a few tweaks here and there to tweak the format. There's some things that I probably should have covered, other things that I wanna change in how the screenshots are presented, and so I'm gonna do it next year, basically, and I'm gonna do it the year after that. I don't want to say that I'm gonna do this for 10 years like John did. But, we'll see. Definitely, I need to keep doing this for at least a couple of years, to get better. I was also very happy with the response to the ebook version that is bundled with the Club MacStories subscription. That was awesome. We basically had another launch day when the review came out, and people really responded to the idea of having an ebook version. And Mike, you were absolutely right in me having to offer an EPUB version of as a downloadable ebook, because readers, when it comes to an article this size, especially when it's when it offers technical information, the kind of API details in a few sections, readers really want to be able to highlight, annotate, make notes and comments. So that was really, I'm thankful, Mike, for you pushing me to do this as an ebook.
The year of Mike was right continues.
Yes, it continues also business-wise. Mm-hmm. So Mike is always right in any case. I'm really happy. I'm happy. I feel like I didn't feel weird the moment that I published. It sort of hit me the day after, and maybe even during the night, when I realized I'm not gonna spend the night editing and writing and putting together screenshots until 7 a.m. again. I can go to bed because it's done. And the few hours after publishing the review were sort of hectic and crazy, fixing a few typos, responding to people's emails for Club MacStories. But during the night, when I realized I'm done, that's when I felt really a sense of accomplishment, as a personal accomplishment. I felt happy that I was done. But I'm already thinking about what to do next year. So I guess we'll see at WWDC. I'll probably use the same strategy. I'm going to start taking notes, doing research as soon as WWDC ends. I'm going to work on a couple of articles before writing the review to kind of test the waters, test my style, make sure that I still got it. So I do a couple of articles after WWDC, and then I use that research to the bigger, goal of putting together a review. For next year, and me and my girlfriend talked about that, I gotta find a better work-life balance, and I realized that on a few occasions, writing this review was a problem for maintaining relationships, getting out of the house. There was a week where I basically never left the house to make sure that I could finish this in time. And I don't want to repeat this next year. So I should be better prepared when it comes to finishing a bit early, or, avoiding Twitter completely, because I feel that the days when I was the most anxious and nervous were the days when I checked Twitter for a couple of hours. And that sort of distraction, even though I tried to eliminate Twitter and RSS from these past 3 months, that sort of minimal distraction every day, that needs to be removed. I need to be completely focused. I need to accept the fact that we have a small team. Other people need to take care of the website. If I want to do this sort of big launch with a big review, I need to be heads down, completely focused on that, and avoid Facebook, avoid Twitter, avoid Reddit, and just spend 3 months of my life on this. So next year, I need to get better also for work-life balance. I need to make the final section with everything else and all the other details a little more in depth and with more screenshots. And I need to, maybe find a better flow for some sections. But overall, I would give myself a 7 this year. And
this is the review of the review.
Yeah. I'm evaluating my own performance, and I feel like maybe if I wanna be a benevolent reviewer, I would say a 7.5. Okay. Next year, I'm shooting for the 8. So we'll see how it goes. I have a few years to get better, and I feel like this is a solid foundation for me to improve upon. We'll see.
Thank you for that, Federico. I want to talk about the Apple TV a little bit, but before we do that, actually, let me take our last sponsor break for this week and thank our friends over at Igloo for sponsoring this week's episode. They make the intranet that you'll actually like. With Igloo, you don't have to be stuck at your desk to do your work. You can manage your task list from your laptop during a meeting, share status updates from your phone as you're leaving a client's site, and have access to the latest version of a file from home, even if you're in your pajamas, because nobody's going to know you're at home and you're on your Igloo. It's perfectly fine. These days, everything is mobile, and your work should be too. And when we say that, that's like you want to be able to use your intranet from your iPhone, from your lovely new iPhone that you're picking up this week. With Igloo, you can, because everything that they build is responsive. It's all responsive design, so you'll be able to use it from absolutely any device. And it's going to look fantastic as well, because you can customize it to look exactly as you like. And you can also customize the functionality and give certain teams their own group spaces, so they have all of the functions that they need, nothing more, nothing less, which is a great way of making sure that everybody stays productive, but also can keep things relevant depending on how they like to work in their team. Also, with our mobile lives these days, people are bringing in their own apps as storage solutions because they want to use documents on their devices, stuff like Box, Google Drive, and Dropbox. If people start putting these documents on their own personal accounts, it can lead to all kinds of security issues, which is why Igloo allows you to integrate all of these services into one big, easy-to-secure platform. If you know terms like 256-bit encryption, single sign-on, and Active Directory integrations, then you'll know just how safe and secure Igloo is. And you can also share files with your coworkers using their own document preview engine. It has read receipts built right in, so you can all make sure you're on the same page of who has read critical information and who hasn't, which is a really good way of getting people to make sure that they've read the stuff that they have to keep everything running swimmingly in your business. It's time to break away from the internet you hate. Go and sign up for Igloo right now, and you can try it out for free with any team of up to 10 people for as long as you like. Sign up right now at igloosoftware.com/connected. Thank you so much to Igloo for supporting this show and Relay FM. So the Apple TV dev units have been sent out to people, and because of that, there are some people posting information and stuff like that online about them, and we actually got an email from a person who we will call Bob, who has one of these Apple TV dev units, and they provided a bunch of information, which, some of it was really interesting, some of it was stuff that we knew, but like confirming things worked in a certain way. But there were some points that I wanted to bring up, which I found quite interesting, and so I just wanted to highlight those, and maybe we could talk about them as we go through. So one of the things that Bob pointed out is that the screensavers, they spoke about those screensavers, like that looked like images but were actually videos. They were like subtly moving and changing time of day and stuff like that. They were taking at different locations around the world. Mm-hmm. Apparently they are really cool and look amazing, but I wonder, do people actually do this with their TV? Do they leave their TV on? Like, just there, on? Do people do that? I don't think so, right? Like, I'm trying to think who needs that.
So we've got an Apple TV now in the living room, and very often if we listen to a lot of music on it, and the TV has to stay on for the music to work. And so right now the screensaver on Apple TV is just like family vacation photos synced over from iTunes. And so I think,
that makes sense.
To music, I think it stays on. But I think overall, I would imagine that people may see the screensaver from time to time, but I don't see people like leaving it on all day just to look at these things.
We don't do screensavers. In fact, our TV is mostly turned off.
Yeah, this is why I'm thinking this, Federico. I'm the same as you. Like, my TV's
also because
off all
I
the
think
time.
It's a huge waste of energy to just keep the display on all the time. But mostly, Mike, I want to ask you, why Bob? Can I call him with a fancier name? Can I call him Carlos?
Okay, well, Carlos now. He'll be Carlos. Okay. I just went with the easiest, most nondescript name, so I went with Bob. But Carlos is also good. So
Thank you.
Carlos goes on to say that the Apple Music app seems pretty good. It has all of the functions that you'd need and want. It doesn't have sharing built in, but everything's in there, like For You and Beats One, all that stuff. But this is what I find really interesting about that. So Siri Search works with video, sports scores, and weather only. It doesn't work with Apple Music.
Oh no, why?
I don't know. So this is how it is currently. Who knows what it will be when it comes out, but this is how it currently is. So if you select an album, for example, you're in the Apple Music app and you select an album and you say play this to Siri. Siri says, "Sorry, I can't do that for you here, but I can help you with movies, TV, sports and weather if you ask."
So it's the play command. It gets confused when you say play.
Seems that way.
Because I would guess that it associates play with movies and TV shows. So if you say, I don't know, play Oasis, what if you have a movie that is also called Oasis? I guess it would let you choose, but maybe that's the problem right now. They don't have either the UI or another set of commands for it. So maybe it's just disabled right now.
Well, but this is where it gets weirder, right? Okay. In that regard. So there is a separate search app where you can use the trackpad to scrub among letters, right, and type in stuff. The search results include movies, TV, and cast and crew. No music.
That's seems a little problematic.
that seems a little unfinished.
It feels so. Carlos said it kind of feels like that the music app was made and dropped in separately.
You think so?
It's there and it works, but it's not integrated with the system. Like it's just an app.
It's strange because on iOS 9, the search APIs
integrated.
Are plugged into the music app. You can search for a song name and you can start playing from the search results. So they have the system in place on iOS. Hey, maybe it's just not done on the TV.
I've just looked at Carlos's original note to me and I cut something out when I pasted it in. If you search with Siri for music, doesn't return results.
Yeah, it may just be that Federico's point is just not all hooked up yet. I mean, all of this needs to be taken, except for the hardware, with a grain of salt.
Yep.
That isn't done.
Of course.
But surely they will.
But it could be done. It could be done.
What
this is the thing we actually don't know right now. This could be done. This might be it. Right? We don't know. Like we can take it with a grain of salt, but this might be it. Right? We don't know.
It could be. Could be. Or Carlos doesn't listen to music.
But it just seems strange to me that even in this state, it wouldn't be working. Like, why? Why would the movie stuff be working, but not the music? Anyway, fast forwarding video works well, but is limited. So you have to pause the video and then swipe with the trackpad to fast forward. And the preview box above the scrubber doesn't update in real time, which will make John Syracuse really sad. It only shows a thumbnail of the video at the point where you stop scrubbing, which kind of seems pointless because then surely the video will have updated on the screen.
Hold on, why is John upset? Can you repeat this?
So I remember he was talking on ATP about this a long time ago about like real-time previewing or something.
The preview doesn't update in real time.
Yeah, it's not until you stop scrubbing and then it shows you that. The remote, so the back of the new remote is aluminium and kind of looks a little bit like the 5th gen iPod Touch finish.
Nice.
I'll put some pictures in the show notes. It's slightly longer than the old one, maybe 3 millimeters or so larger. The remote trackpad click is a physical click. It's not force touch, so you can actually see it moving. So there's tap and a click. And the difference between a tap and a click is that a click selects an item, whereas a tap is for navigation and is an alternative to swiping. So, for example, if you tap on the left side of the little trackpad, it will move the section one spot to the left, or tap on the right edge to move up a row of icons, for example. So you can swipe or tap to move around and then click to select. So they were the most interesting things to me, like some additional details about the remote and the interesting music functionality.
Yeah, my thought of the remote is sort of like the 3D touch thing on the iPhone, which trying to describe it or talk about it is hard, and then if you use it, it seems everybody who's used it has talked about it makes a lot of sense, and it's very sort of natural, and you're not going to accidentally trigger it. And my guess is that the Apple TV remote is probably like that as well, where it's like we got into a debate about like tap versus clicking and like all this stuff. And my guess is that once it's in your hand, the physical feedback is what makes all the difference. And at least I'm hoping that's the case. And I think that's the case with the Force Touch or 3D Touch stuff. And I mean, I can't imagine that they would design a brand new remote and then it be ambiguous as to what you were doing on it, you know, when you're using it. So hopefully it's one of those things where it's all about the feel and the hand, and the words around it are just difficult to use.
Yeah, from the way that Carlos described it, it kind of makes sense to me. Like that clicked in my brain anyway. Like there is a tap
Mike,
and there is a click.
Can I ask you a question?
Mm-hmm.
But you gotta be honest with me.
Mm-hmm.
Are you excited about getting an Apple TV?
Not in any stretch of the imagination, no.
And I ask you because I believe me and you are kind of similar in our TV consumption habits. We don't have kids. We don't need the TV to put the kids in front of the TV and just say, watch something. We use TVs as displays for consoles, and we watch movies on our MacBooks.
Yep.
And that's why I ask you.
Yeah, see, I don't even really want one. Like, but I will probably get one because it's not that expensive, and it's a platform that I want to be. That I want to know about properly now.
Yes,
like previously,
exactly.
The Apple TV, like I didn't need to care about it. Like there was nothing there that was interesting. It was just another view for iTunes, effectively.
Yeah.
Like it didn't do anything that was specific. But now with the apps, it's like a platform that might be meaningful. So I feel like I should get one just so I can install the interesting apps that come up. But I can't see myself using it for anything that I don't currently use all of the other smart connected devices to my TV. Like for media consumption and stuff like that, like many of my games consoles can do a lot of the same kind of stuff. Like for example, watching Netflix, but I still watch Netflix on my laptop in bed instead anyway, or plug my laptop into a TV in the rare instances that we want to do that. It's just not really a thing that I'm too massively interested in right now. Maybe that will change over time. I'm sure it will change over time. But I just right now don't really care for it.
Yeah. I wanted this answer. You provided this answer. Thank you for this answer, Mike.
Anytime.
That's exactly what I wanted.
You are excited about this.
I am professionally curious about the Apple TV. That's what I would say. Okay. Steven, I guess he's excited.
We use our Apple TV all the time, especially with the kids. But even if after the kids go to bed or they're doing something else, it's really a nice interface for Netflix and for YouTube and stuff. So we don't have a console hooked up to the TV. I do have a Mac Mini hooked up to the TV, although I think that's getting ready to change. So for us, it is really like. We don't have cable. It is the way things get onto our TV. So we use it, like I said, a lot for music listening, and we use it a lot for streaming stuff. And so yeah, I will be ordering when they show up because it gets so much use. I do have some sort of lingering questions around the durability of the remote. I mean, we've joked about everyone who has an Apple TV loses their remotes at some point, but like our remotes also get like. Fall off the couch and get tossed around and run over. And I hope that the thing is tough enough to take some abuse because I would imagine that it's going to be more expensive than the current one. I think the current one's either $19 or $29 to replace. I think $19. My guess is this one will be more, and I just hope that it's pretty durable because remotes get abused and lost and beat up. So.
I feel like it will probably still take a beating, but it won't be as durable as the previous one. No way.
Yeah, I mean, looking at it on the website, I mean, the top, third of it or something is this multi-touch panel, and imagine that could crack at some point. But
and there's a microphone in there that could get dislodged. Like, there's all kinds of stuff going on in here. Yeah, for sure. So that was that. I guess potentially Carlos may provide some additional follow-up based on our discussion today, but we'll see. I appreciate Carlos's information. He slid under the door to me.
Thank you, Carlos.
Thank you, Carlos.
Also, cool name, Carlos.
Yeah, very cool name. Much better than Bob.
Yeah. I mean, you gotta pick a fake name, pick a cool one.
Good point. All right, do we want to talk about anything else today, or are we set?
I think we're
good.
Okay, great. Cool. If you want to catch our show notes online, there's a great place that you can do that. Head on over to relay.fm/connected/58 if you'd like to find us all online. So there's a few good places you can do that. You can find Stephen. He is at ISMH on Twitter and at 512pixels.net. Federico is at Viticci, Viticci on Twitter, and he is over at macstories.net. I am at iMyke, IMYKE, and I would love it if you would check out a new show that I'm doing with Tom and Dan at Studio Neat called Thoroughly Considered, which is all about product design and bringing a product into market. So I think you might enjoy that, so go check that out. Episode 1 is out now. And thanks again to our sponsors this week, the fine people over at Igloo, Fracture, and Smile. And thank you for listening. We'll be back next time. Until then, say goodbye, guys.
Arrivederci.
Adios.